Greetings, everybody. This is another episode of All Things Education Official. I'm your host, Mr. Abdullah. Apparently, all you really have to do is look nice and dress nice, and you can become a school administrator and a school leader. Let's get into it.
Hey, Dr. Omega, Car Chronicles. Listen, I just did some walkthroughs with the school division. They asked me to hang back and sit in on their assistant principal interviews. Let me let you know, step up your game, candidates, because those candidates today, they brought their A game. Came down to two candidates, and I'm good with how they selected it because it says a lot about them, but it came down to the attire. One guy had on khakis, dress shirt, no tie, no jacket. And you may say he didn't have anything. Go borrow it. Go to Salvation Army, Goodwill, $5. I'm being serious when I say that. You have one time to make a great impression. The guy who they selected, suited up, bow tie, handkerchief. He had his portfolio game going on. He had attention to detail, and he brought the noise. You got to look your best, be your best, do your best, dress the way you want to be addressed.
Okay, so as you can see, obviously the most important thing that you can get out of a administrator is his bow tie and handkerchief. Maybe his portfolio, that's kind of mentioned as a secondary, but I think you need to focus primarily on what was stated. It came down to the way a person was dressed, their apparel. I don't think, with the exception of possibly maybe fashion, maybe acting, something that deals with aesthetics, I don't think there's any other field that makes sense. There is no way, and I always use this with other educators and students, there is no way a pilot, an airline pilot who is responsible for the lives of, let's say, 100 people, it comes down to whether or not they looked good in the interview if they got the job to fly a plane. I think that it makes more sense to say that if the person has the skill set and the know-how to fly a plane, knows how to get the people there safely, to guarantee the safety and the lives of others, that's what they get the job for. You will not have a person who's in charge of building a building. It comes down to whether or not they look good in the interview if they got the job. I'm trying to think, and maybe leave it in the comments, send me an email. Maybe there is a profession outside what I said before, maybe acting, modeling, that the aesthetics come down to it. But especially when you talk about the livelihood and the well-being of children, it comes down to the way you're dressed. That to me is utterly amazing. And as long as I've been in education, I've always known that principals tend to want to look their best because I recognize that they were representing the school. I understand that. But I think that in order for you to say it came down to apparel, which was the deciding factor of what a board or maybe a committee was utilizing to hire an individual to lead children, to lead a community, because people don't really understand the magnitude of education. You are actually creating the next generation of either failures or successes. I think you really need to focus on that, ponder that. You are in charge of the well-being of not only 1, 2, 3, maybe 100 to 200 children. You're talking about potentially changing the landscape of the city, state, and the country. And that's relegated to how a person dresses. It's amazing to me. But though I find it to be amazing, I do recognize that a lot of people are shifting from that. People are saying, yeah, look good, but what else can you bring to the academic and educational table? Can you lead our children into 21st century learning? Can these students be prepared to create an environment that is sustainable in the future? I don't think that a lot of people think like that. They think, hey, I'm about to get this job. I'm going to have summers off, every break, weekends. I get in at 8, I'm off at 3, correct a couple papers, hey. And then, you know what? After a while, I get tired of doing that. So I'm just going to leave this school. I'm going to tell other people to do what I was doing for 5 to 10 years. But it's so much deeper than that. Our children are so important. I think that we put so much emphasis on how we look we don't put enough emphasis on what we do. I don't know. I just think that you need to be very, very mindful. I'm gonna tell a quick story. I remember when I went to go look at my daughter's school, look into it, check into it, and I actually met with the principal. The principal was a woman, and I recognized that the building was impeccable. Her office was spotless, but the school was running like crazy. And I learned something. When I went into other schools, mine in particular, where my principal's desk was a mess, he was all over the place as far as where he was location wise. He was in classrooms, he was in the hallways. I think that a lot of people don't recognize that if you see someone who has that much time to spend on the way their desk looks and not enough time to spend with children, that's a small indicator, not guaranteed, but it's an indicator of how the school may be ran. I want you to really consider that. So I just want people to recognize that where we are in the state of education, the affairs of education. Now, of course, this isn't an absolute. It's not all over. It's not everywhere, but it's out there enough that maybe your child will be affected. So please remember, always look to know what is the criteria for hiring your school leaders, your teachers, paras, everything, because they will be interacting with your children 6 to 8 hours a day. That is so very, very important. Once again, this is All Things Education Official. Please remember, your children are the future. And we're out.